So what I'm noticing some people are doing is some people, and this is not a problem, okay, this is good, it just requires a different lesson. In the original website file, let's just go back to that here. Oh, got to go back to my demo site here. So in the original demo site, when I did the menu, it was just a simple font, right? Okay, and I didn't do anything with it. I just literally typed in the words here. But some people want something a little fancier, and that's okay. So I did one here that's just like this. Now this text that I have here, that's not a font that's readily available on the internet, and most people might not have it on their computer. So it's probably best if I make these image files instead of trying to type it in and figure out a font and embedding fonts and all that other stuff. It's just easier to make them PNGs. But then I've had a couple students try that, and they've had serious issues with trying to control the PNGs enough that they can make all the buttons even, control them with the class and CSS and all that other stuff. So I thought I'd do a quick demo on how to do all these buttons so that they are exactly the same size, the same width and height, so that the text is always going to be centered, that sort of thing. So what I've got here is in the Photoshop file. You can see my layers. I've got four text layers here that correspond to the four menu items here. Now they're honestly a little bit on the big side. We'll deal with that in just a second, but let's set this up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I don't need all that other stuff, right? I've already saved out my menu bar background here in HTML as a PNG and put it into the HTML and CSS as a background for the menu div. And I've got my header and all that, and my logo all set up. So really, all I need is just the words. So I'm going to go in, excuse me, and I'm going to use the crop tool. And I'm going to make sure that the crop tool is set to snap, and that snap to is set. And I'm actually going to turn off the guides here because I want it to snap to the box. So I'm just going to start here, and I'm just going to crop in like about there. Now that's actually a little bit bigger than I need. Whoops, that's not the crop tool. Now I've got the crop tool. So it's actually going to be a little bit bigger than I need, but that's okay. I'm going to resize it as we go along here in the process. So I went a little bit taller and a little bit wider than I honestly feel like I need. Now if you remember our CSS, let's make this a little bigger. If you remember our CSS here, my menu is 50 pixels tall, and my menu items are 35 pixels tall, but with a 15 pixel padding to push the text down, okay? So they're basically 50 pixels tall. So I'm going to go back to Photoshop here, and I'm going to go to Image, Canvas Size, and I'm going to look at what I've got for my width and height. And then also, if I look at my width for my menu items, they're 150 pixels wide. Okay? So I'm going to make this 150 pixels wide, and I'm going to make it 50 pixels tall. Now what I want is, if you notice when I cropped it, I hit cancel for a second, I got a little bit of the blue bar on the top. So I'm going to crop that out now before I start playing with canvas size here. Like that. There we go. Now I'll go back to canvas size. And then I can just make it 50 pixels tall. I'm going to click my little button here so that it crops everything off the bottom and keeps the top where I want it. And then I'm going to hit 150 pixels there. And I'll just leave it in the center, so it's going to chop it off from both sides evenly. Boom. And thank you very much. It's warning me that I'm clipping things. Now I can take my, my move tool, click on this, and I can center my text. Right about there. That looks pretty good. And I can nudge it with the arrow keys if I want to as well and get it kind of set up. But then you might go, okay, that's great. Where are the other buttons? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to stack them all on top of each other. So I've got all my layers here, and we can delete a bunch of the layers. I don't need my blue background. I don't need my logo and my title and my logo shape. I'll keep just about everything else though. And I'll delete those. And then what I'm going to do before I go too much further is I'm going to say File, Save As, and I'm going to save this as menubuttons.psd, which I already have done that. I did that first period, but we'll do it again. So it won't ask you if you want to replace it in your case because this will be brand new, but for me, I'm replacing the one I did first period. Okay, maximum compatibility, yes. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the portfolio text layer, and it's off over here somewhere. So I'm just going to click in here, and I'm going to drag it to the right until it's about centered in there. We'll take care of the rest in a second. And then about me, same thing. It's there. I just got to keep dragging it. There it is. There, it's coming in. Now, we're going to notice an immediate problem. That's not going to fit. Okay, well, we'll deal with that in a second. So now we're going to get the contact button here. Is way far away. There it is, and that's it. So now that looks like a jumbled mess, I know. We're going to just turn these off one at a time. Now I already set up home, so that one's good. Portfolio, we're going to click portfolio, and I can nudge that around with the arrow keys. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the home button, and I want to make sure that they're all at the same level here, so that they're all, the bottoms of the text are equal, so that when they end up going in a line across the menu bar, they're not going up, down, up, down, up, down. That will look really inconsistent. Okay. There we go. Now, about me is not going to fit. We'll deal with that in a second. I just want to get them positioned right. And contact, oh, where did contact go? Weird. Okay. I thought I had moved it, but there we go. So we got contact. Turn on home. That looks pretty good. Okay. So now I've got all these except about me. About me is obviously too big. So I have a couple of options. Number one, make my button bigger. That's the obvious and probably the easiest option. The other thing that I can do is when you're dealing with text, grab the text tool, and when you click on that, right up here, there's a little button. When you hit that button, a new menu will pop up that gives you some options for playing with a paragraph or characters. And one of the things that I can do is I can, with this here, this is the spacing between the letters, I can squish the letters together. See that? That's a little bit too much, but maybe minus 100 might work better. Recenter it. And then actually that looks kind of nice. Go back to my layers, check on home. Now I can do the opposite with home. Home is a little small for my button, so I can do the same thing. Go to the text tool here. Make sure that I'm clicked on the layer that I want. That's important, by the way, or else you'll be adjusting one of the layers that's hidden, which could mean major screw-ups. And instead of condensing it, I could expand it a little bit, just so that it takes up a little bit more space. Yeah, 160 or so probably looks pretty good. The font size is the same. It just means that it's going to take up a little bit more space width-wise, and I should be good to go. So now I've got all my buttons set up, and I'm ready to save. Now if I go back to my HTML, I notice I already have the background set up. So when I start saving these, I don't need to save that white bar. So I'm going to go into Photoshop. I'm going to turn those two layers off. Now I've just got the transparent background and the home. So now I'm going to go File, Save. Actually, first, save my Photoshop file. And then I'm going to say File, Save As. Go to my images. Now I've already done this once, so I'm just going to click on it. But, well, I'll just do it. So I'm going to type in Menu, Home. Make it a PNG. and hit save. Now it's going to ask me if I want to replace it. That's because I did this first period this morning. So yes, replace it. Then I will turn home off and turn portfolio on. File, save as. Go to the images folder, change menu buttons to menu portfolio. Set it as a PNG and click save. And just basically keep going. About me, I condensed about me. So save as, go to my images folder, and I'll just type about. I don't need the about me, I know what it is, and save it as a PNG. You get the idea. And so I'm just working with the same file over and over and over again. The nice thing is, 10 days from now, if I decide that this color stinks, which it kind of does, okay, I can go and I can change it. And then just resave the images out, replace the old ones, and then I just open up my new web page and the new ones take over the old ones and you're done. You don't have to change any coding or anything like that. So it's really kind of cool. So now let's just go and put them in our website real fast. So I'm going to go into Dreamweaver. I'm going to go down here to my HTML, and you can see where the word home is. I'm going to take that, I'm going to delete it. Then I'm going to go over here, I'm going to grab the home PNG that's there, and I'm going to drag that right where the text was. Boom. And you can see it comes in. But now we need to do some work here, okay? Because my CSS isn't completely correct. Because I have that padding on the menu items, okay? So we're going to change our padding to 0 and then get this back to 50 pixels in height. And then that should work. Refresh. There we go, everything pops back. And I can just do that for all of them. So portfolio, and the nice thing is, because I was using a class instead of individual IDs for my menu buttons, it kind of makes it really, really, really simple. About me, I'm not going to do all the descriptors, yeah, whatever, and contact me becomes contact. And you can shorten these things. Okay? The artist statement is the about me. You can say artist statement if you want to, or about me or whatever. So now if I take a look at this in Safari, yes, thank you, I thought I just did hit, okay? They need a little spacing in between them. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm just going to set my margins left and right. So if I go back here, I can just set my menu items and just go margin left. Let's set it to say 20 pixels, and margin right, 20 pixels. That's going to push everything around, and now they look a little bit better, okay? Maybe you don't like it, maybe you want to work on it, a little bit. I'm not so sure about this font personally, but, design-wise, I think that it's too tall, it needs to be a little smaller, that sort of a thing, but the principle is the same. The important thing that you recognize here, really important, is number one, if you want to do all these buttons, they really should be the same size, okay? And the only way to really make them the same size is get them all in one file and stack them all on top of each other. That's the easiest way to do this. So that way, and then save that. So that way you can always go back to that file and make changes if you want. Just resave out, save over top of the old versions, and voila, the new versions will just reload next time you open the website. You don't even have to change the coding, as long as the names are the same. That's the beauty of websites. You can make that change. And the other beautiful thing is, if you had, say, 15, 20, 30, 3,000 pages, if all those pages are using the same menu, and that menu has all the same buttons, when you change that button and you resave it, it will reload on all the pages to be exactly the same. So you don't have to do that change for 3,000 pages. You do it once and you're done. So it's partly also being smart. But here's the thing. You've got to keep it the same size. If all of a sudden the button changes size or the button changes something else major, then your design will explode and will go all screwed up. So that's another reason why we want to keep them all in the same file. Does that make sense? Now, not all of you are doing this. Some of you are doing it like I had before, where you're doing just Oops, don't save. Where you're doing just code, like I had in Dreamweaver, where I had just home typed in there. In that case, you don't need to worry about this, but this might come in handy for another part of your website, so it was a good thing to talk about. Any questions? That's that.